Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Chamber's March 3rd House meeting. I'm Jeff Ray, President and CEO, Southland Regional Chamber. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're really grateful for you being here. These have become very popular, and we appreciate the chance to share with you kind of the exciting things that are going on at the State House. We prefer, obviously, to be in person, and we look forward to next year being back in person. We know you really value that chance to connect with our legislators, and they've been very kind, even in this virtual setting, with their time to come and make sure that we're up to speed with what's happening down in Indianapolis. And so thank you to our legislators for joining us. Remember, they leave their family for the entire week, and then they come home, and instead of hanging out with their family, we ask them to come hang out with us for a little bit. So we're really grateful for you doing that. So before we start, I just want to say thanks to the Troyer Group. The Troyer Group has been our sponsor for Third House meeting for a number of years. Our engineering firm, headquartered in Mishawaka, but does work all over the Midwest and the country. Terrific group. John Lasinski and the team over there have been important partners, and so just want to say thank you to them for teaming up with us on Third House meeting today. And then just a quick intro. While they don't need introductions, you're going to see them: Representatives Dale Devon, Jake Teshka, Tim Wesco, and Maureen Bauer, and Senators Ryan Mishler and David Niskotsky. So we'll have a robust conversation today about important things happening down in the State House, and so we'll look forward to that. Representative Wesco, I want to come your way first, and can you just again, maybe for level setting all of us, help us understand again where we are in the process, if you will, and the time frame, kind of what's happening right now?
Be happy to do that, Jeff. Can you all hear me okay? All right, good. I'm trying these new headphones out here today. So we are quickly nearing the end of a session. It looks like session is going to come to a conclusion earlier than our statutory deadline. So there's some serious discussions about ending a week earlier this year. So that's happening. So the process is working quickly. We are already dealing with concurrences in the House. So House bills that have gone over to the Senate, past the Senate, have come back to the House, and we are concurring on them. This is the earliest I've ever seen the House take up concurrences. And again, it's just kind of that working through the process a little bit quicker. So the legislature has already sent 47 bills to the governor. So we are seeing some legislation move to his desk. We still got quite a few that are in the docket. We have 88 House bills out of committee in the Senate, 81 Senate bills out of committee in the House. And so these are all quickly moving their way through the House and the Senate. So our calendar on a day-to-day basis has been fairly light the last few weeks, just that turnover mid-session point when bills have to go through committee. So we anticipate this week starting to really see the calendar start to add up and to see longer session days, we anticipate. Also, some of the most highly watched or anticipated pieces of legislation are still largely in the process. And we have had a few really significant ones, such as the COVID liability bill, the virtual funding, 100% funding for virtual education for schools bills. Those have already gone to the governor's desk. So there's been some really important legislation there, but there's still quite a bit in the works yet. So we are nearing the final stretch. It looks like we'll be finished up in less than 1 month.
Thank you, Representative Wesco. Appreciate that quick update, and we'll come back to you with some more specifics. Senator Mishler, I want to come your way. Obviously, maybe the item that gets the most attention during years like this is the budget, and so you're in a process with the budget. We know it's long from settled, but we know it's really one of the most important things that you'll do this session. Can you just help us again understand where you're at in that process right now?
Yeah, so last week, Representative Brown presented in committee, and then we heard from all the universities. This last Thursday, we heard from, just yesterday, we heard from all the agencies, and then we'll take testimony on it probably in a week, and then we have to have it out of committee by April 8th. And Tim mentioned we moved the deadlines up back a week, so we'll have it out of committee on the 8th. The biggest part obviously is K-12 education. That's 50% of it. You add higher ed and then Medicaid, you're at 80%. So those three right there make up 80% of the budget. So we're still, the House sent us this House Bill 1005, which is the education piece. And we're not going to move their bill, but we're vetting all of the issues in the bill to see how we want to put them into the budget until we have that figured out, which I'm hoping we will in the next week. Because until I get that, I'm kind of at a stalemate since that's half of the budget. But we pretty much have most of it kind of put together. Now, here's the tough part. So people say, you got another $3 billion coming in from the federal government. Why can't you pay for all these things? And there's a distinction between what we call above the line and below the line in the budget. Above the line is a structural balance. So that's ongoing revenue and expenses. And then below the line is one time. And one time would be like capital projects, if you cash pay them, things like that. So people can't figure out why that $3 billion can't be used to backfill the budget. And that's why, because that $3 billion has to be used for one-time expenses. Now, if we use it to pay down debt or pay down pension liability, it does free up money from debt service and money that's going into the pension stabilization fund that would give us more cash flow above the line. So we have to be very wise how we spend that $3 billion in ways that help us where we're going to be tight, because our structural balance is tight. I think it's 100 million right now in the first year based on the forecast, and 250 million, I think, in the second year, which on a $36 billion budget is almost flatline. So we'll get new numbers in April that we'll work off of, but for now we're working off December numbers. So if we use that $3 billion wisely, we can maybe give us a little more flexibility on our structural balance. So that's pretty much where we're at with the budget right now.
Great, Senator Mishra, thank you. And let me ask just maybe a quick follow-up question. You mentioned the importance of those numbers, looking at the December numbers, and then you'll look again at the April numbers. Just more curious, that the December numbers, were they alarming to you? Was there a negative COVID impact? Does that sort of cause you some trepidation, or were they encouraging, starting to head in the right direction? Anything that you could glean from what you saw in December?
Well, the December numbers were definitely lower than what they normally would have been, but I have to tell you, they were better than what I expected. But what kind of threw me was during the shutdown, the lockdown, I guess they called it, last March and April, our personal income skyrocketed because all these people went on unemployment. A lot of them made more than what they did normally. So income went up. And same then the next couple months, spending went up. So our personal income tax did not drop down like you would expect it to do. And the sales tax revenue did not take a huge dip like you would expect it to do in a normal recession. So that, I think, kind of threw us off a little bit. So the numbers weren't nearly as bad as what I expected. I thought they'd be negative. So the fact that they were still 100 million above, like I said, it's flatline, but it's still positive. Now, if you look at the monthly forecast, they've been pretty good as well. So I would expect the April numbers to be more promising. I just don't know how much more. I would be surprised if they went down. So coming out of a recession or whatever due to the pandemic, we could be in a lot worse shape than we are. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact we had a lot of cash on hand to get us through it. So I think that helped us recover faster than a lot of other states. So I've always been a big proponent of having a strong reserves, and there's an example why I think that kind of helped us more than what we actually thought it would.
Great, thank you, Senator Mishra. And obviously the rest of you are heavily involved too, and have priorities. Any others while we're talking budget want to weigh in on kind of what you're seeing so far, or any observations or priorities that you have?
I would just add that, obviously we're working through those procedures right now. As Senator Mishler mentioned, that we've heard a lot of the departments speak now. There was a bit of grilling going on yesterday with a couple of the departments and their budgets. but dialogue is good. And we want to kind of see how these federal stimulus dollars might be incorporated. And, I understand that can only be a one-time use, but as Senator Mishler stated, there's things that they can probably be backfilled where they might be able to do a lot of good with some of the other things that we're going to want to do ongoing. So it's a working process. I think we're all going to have different things that we want to try to add to the budget, some different priorities or some dollars that we have noticed that have been taken away from different projects. So in my case, that's what I'm going to be doing within the next several days, is working with Senator Mishler to see if we can't incorporate a couple of those things to make sure some of the funding that was there before, hopefully it can be reestablished.
I think it's interesting, and quite frankly, it's a great thing that we're talking about priorities and not where could we cut, right? What are our budget priorities? Where can we make strategic investments? And I think that's in large part due to Senator Mishler's guidance and other leaders' guidance over the last decade or so, and making sure that we are in a good spot when it comes to reserves. I think if you were to ask a lot of us a year ago if we'd be poised to, again, there's kind of final numbers getting worked out in the budget, but the version that we passed in the House increased K through 12 funding by $378 million. We were looking at potential $250 million for broadband expansion, $70 million for the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, and so on and so forth, right? And so we're in a position, unlike some states around us, where we're able to make strategic investments and grow through this. When I think a year ago, we all thought that this was going to be a different type of budget session.
Hey, Jeff, Dale Devon here. And I think one of the other bigger items would be that we're dealing with is broadband, right? And trying to get that out. We have about a $3 billion problem in our state currently, and the Senator Appropriations Chair can probably tell us a little bit more about the funding coming in. I think we got close to $4 billion coming in on federal aid. I think we had budgeted about $250 million ourselves for this year's budget. So it's still a big work in progress for that coming across.
And I'll add just briefly, one of the items that I was excited to see was that there'll be a federal match of 2 states that expand Medicaid 1 year postpartum. And while 21 other states have done that, Indiana has not. So really hope we can capture those federal funds while also accomplishing something that we have been trying to address for many years, would be maternal health in Indiana as well.
Thank you, Representative Bauer, and thank you all. Representative Wesco, I don't want to leave you out. Any budget thoughts before we move on?
I was, again, I'd be reiterating some of the things some of the other folks have said, but the broadband, the law enforcement academy, education funding in general, there's some other big items that are in the budget that are continuing to be discussed, and so.
Great. So let's move on and we'll talk about some specific bills. And I obviously have some questions on some, but also would love to give you a chance to weigh in as well too. So Representative Teshka, let me start with you. So bills that you've worked on that you're exciting, that are advancing, things that you're disappointed haven't advanced. Give us a feel for what you've been involved in and kind of your thoughts on some of those bills. Sure.
So my first bill that went to the governor's desk was 1576, and it was basically a transparency bill, which was a nice bill to have be the first one of mine out of the gate, and so that's something that we got broad bipartisan support on. One of the other things that I'm proud of working on this year with Representative Shane Lindauer was House Bill 1286, and the other side of that, the Senate side of that, Senate Bill 3, and that's telehealth matters and expanding access to telehealth and beyond the pandemic period. I'd heard from a lot of folks, providers locally, and in particular mental health providers, which was my particular interest in this whole thing, that this is something that they've been able to do over the last 12 months during the pandemic that they would like to continue doing, right? And there's no reason for certain practitioners, such as a licensed therapist, maybe an addiction counselor, et cetera, that they can't do some of their work in much the same way that we're doing this and virtually. And so I think it's important that we expand access to that telehealth, and that was one of the reasons why I was proud to be on that. It was mentioned once here before, but House Bill 1003, I was a co-author on, which fully funds our public schools through this pandemic period. Again, I think it was noted that because of the virtual nature, the legislature had previously said that we were going to fund virtual schools at 85%, and not knowing what was coming, that went into effect, and here we were left with a decision to make, and I think all of us really wanted to make sure that schools weren't penalized for something that they didn't necessarily choose to do, and so I'm a proud co-author of that as well.
Great, thank you, Representative Teschka. Representative Bauer, I'll come your way too. Kind of similar question. So, bills that have advanced that were important to you, some disappointments for any that didn't, help us understand, kind of what you've been working on and where you're at on those.
Sure. One I'm excited about is Senate Bill 63. I was able to co-sponsor addressing mental health for inmates. I authored a similar bill addressing health concerns of pregnant women in our prisons and county jails. While that didn't move forward, this is a good option to address some of those concerns in this bill, and that has moved forward out of the House as well. This week we'll be hearing Senate Bill 218, which establishes homeless township assistance, which does some studies to address low barrier homeless shelter task force, which is encouraging. And then I co-authored a bill with Representative Earl Harris creating urban agriculture zones, and that passed out of the Senate Agricultural Committee this week unanimously and is now on to Tax and Fiscal. And we're hopeful that we'll move forward and then eventually be signed by the governor into law. We did miss our opportunity to address some important election issues, addressing independent commission to redraw our maps, but looking forward to the remaining few weeks, I'm hopeful that we'll see some good legislation move forward for Hoosiers.
Representative Wesco, how about your way? So bills that have been important to you, something that's on the agenda for the home stretch here, to help us understand, some of the things you're working on.
First of all, we sent Senator Nizgotsky's Senate Bill 164 back to the Senate with amendments. That's the St. Joseph County innkeeper's tax, passed out of the House unanimously. So good to see that, and appreciate the chamber's involvement with that piece of legislation. Senate Bill 202, I am a co-sponsor on. That is Senator Rogers' bill in relationship to health facility visitation, ensuring that people can have a family advocate visit them in a health facility. We're looking at expanding that to include hospitals as well. Just seen a lot of issues over this last 12-month period with people not being able to have access to family members, and then people just simply avoiding going to the hospital with significant health needs because they knew they wouldn't be able to have a family member accompany them. So this is some legislation that I spoke with Senator Rogers about back in the concept phase in the fall of last year, and have been glad to see the Senate move that. That I expect here to move out of the House Health Committee soon. Grateful for the Senate passing House Bill 1356, my permanent trailer registration bill for small trailers, 3,000 pounds and under. Appreciate Senator Mishler hearing that in the Senate Appropriations Committee and helping us to make some positive changes to that bill to address wheel tax. So that has passed out of the Senate with amendments. So I anticipate concurring on that in the House. And then otherwise, I've got about 7 or 8 different election bills moving in the House and or the Senate. So the Senate's passed out, I believe, 2 of the election bills that I authored in the House. And so those have both been amended. So we anticipate looking at those for concurrences here in the next week or two. And then we've passed Senate Bill 260 out of the House and have Senate Bill 398, Senate Bill 353 still in the works. Senate Bill 398 passed second reading yesterday, and anticipate that being on third reading in the House. Just a lot of 398 is they call it the omnibus elections bill. It literally has several dozen different election provisions. I was grateful to work in a bipartisan manner with my House Elections Committee folks. They brought forward several different good ideas that we were able to adopt, and some that we were able to modify a little bit and bring back on second reading. So appreciated the input of them on those bills. So those are some of the bills that I've been working on and things I've been focused on here in the session. Jeff, I can't hear you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. The Indiana General Assembly does a great job at iga.in.gov. So obviously during these meetings, we hear a lot of numbers, but I encourage you to write those down and go to iga.in.gov and find out more about it. They do a terrific job of tracking where they are in the process, showing you the latest amendments. You can even watch the hearings on most of these. So I would encourage you to follow that or look for those as they're talking about numbers. And these meetings I know go very fast sometimes, but the detail is available to you then if you want to follow up and sort of understand what some of our representatives are talking about. They do an amazing job of keeping all these balls up in the air and thinking about all these bills and what's going on, and balancing that I know is a real challenge. So just one last in this House, Dale, I'm going to come your way for really similar thing. Any bills that we should know about that either have advanced that you're excited about or that you're trying to get to the finish line here?
Again, thanks, Jeff, and everybody that's taken time today to spend their lunch hour with us. But yeah, no, it's we didn't know what it was going to be like going into this pandemic year of the session, and it's all new for everybody. I did sponsor or author 7 bills. I've co-authored 7 bills. I've sponsored 6, and I've co-sponsored 5 bills, and most of them tend to deal with DCS and dealing with, and a lot of them had a lot of pandemic type related issues. So the agency bill for DCS this year was dealing with foster care kids that age out during the pandemic and they weren't able to get services and those type of things, allowing the director of DCS to continue services for these kids that are trying to get out in the world, but the world's shut down, right? So it gives them an ability to survive still and continue to move forward until things move in a better place for them. We've got several bills that deal with the Commission on Improving Status of Children. We're trying to get kids to get plugged into the commission. We've got 2 spots that we're opening up on our board that for young adults that maybe have lived in the DCS world or Department of Corrections world, that we can learn from their world's experience, right, and their life's experiences, that we can help them succeed better in life. I've got a bill that kind of excited about that teachers need professional growth points, and we're allowing them to get some trauma training that we can help our teachers succeed and give them tools to succeed in their classrooms when they realize that a child's been dealing with some trauma in their life, and it just keeps them managing their classroom better and hopefully that child succeed in life. So I could go on for several more. I know Senator Niskotsky's had a bill that came before our committee this week that we heard, and he's been working with me for the last couple of years on trying to get that bill heard, and we finally got DCS to the table, and I think we got it in a pretty good place. It's not perfect by anybody's stretch of the imagination, and I won't take David's glory on that bill, so I'll pass by letting that come over to him.
Thanks, Dale. And I'm going to come your way, Senators. Now, a couple things. One, several bills of local interest that originated in the Senate that you both had an important role in. So I'd love for you to chat about those, and then other bills as well that we should know about that you've been involved in. So Senator Skotsky, how about we come your way first?
Okay, I appreciate it, Jeff. And there are a few things that are still moving, but especially within our area. I'll speak to one. There's 2 others that I'm involved in, but Senator Mishler has been the lead author, so I'll let him speak to those. And I'll just add in a couple of other items that I still have that are in the works. But Senate Bill 164, the St. Joseph County Innkeepers Tax, I'm very, very happy to see the position it's in right now. As Representative Westcott stated, it was amended at House Ways and Means, but really that was more of a procedural or a technical type amendment that was asked for by the Department of Revenue concerning some dates that they needed to have within that bill. So that is, I have currently signed the concurrence for that. I looked on our calendar. It hasn't appeared on our calendar for Monday yet, but that's going to happen as soon as that goes on the calendar. It's really pretty much a vote of my concurrence, and that bill goes to the governor after that. So we're in a very, very good place in that. I have a couple of things, as Representative Devon mentioned, is parents with disabilities. We have been working that the last couple of years, and we've worked each year. You work more and more trying to work with the different agencies. At DCS, we brought some Representative Devon helped us with bringing some judges into the mix this last Thursday. Or I think that was on Wednesday, but Thursday morning it was amended in the Family and Children's Committee that Representative Devon chairs. So I'm very happy about that. I hope to be speaking to Senator Mishler about with Senate Bill 66 to concern adoption subsidies. And that was language that we did pass through the Family and Children's Committee in the Senate with a unanimous vote and was heard in appropriations, but Senator Mishler decided to hold it. And I'm hoping maybe that becomes language that gets incorporated in the Senate version of the budget and then gets to be actually included in the final budget. There are a couple other things I really didn't mention was, I'll just let Senator Mishler speak to those, but they do involve our community. And that's the biggest thing. I'm really very excited what's taking place in our community. We've seen many things throughout the years, but this is one of those years where I think a lot is coming home, and it's going to be of great benefit for economic development, tourism, for the overall growth of our city, our community, entire region.
Great. Thank you, Senator Skotsky, and especially appreciate your leadership on 164 and the really support of most of the delegation, not all of them, but most of them supported that. And so we're really grateful for that. And we'll work on getting Representative Dvorak on board next time for supporting that broad community support there. So we're grateful for that. Senator Mishler,
yes, same back at you and Rob and everyone that's played a big part in this. A lot of there's been a lot of assistance in this, and I certainly appreciate it.
Great, and I think we've shared before that this really helps catalyze the economic recovery, we hope, by making some needed improvements to things, important community assets like the Potawatomi Zoo, the Morse Performing Arts Center, and a new sports complex in Mishawaka, as well as a tourism capital improvement fund that helps us improve other assets. So we appreciate the cooperation, and it really from the city councils to the mayors to the commissioners to our state general assembly to business. It's been a nice to see the whole community come together behind that cause. So Senator Mishler, coming your way, two other bills of local priority, Senate Bill 384 and Senate Bill 356, have been high on our list, and we appreciate your leadership on those two. If you could help us understand those and where they're at in the process, and then other bills of interest that we should know about that you've been involved in.
First of all, I want to say something about the hotel motel and thank Senator Skotsky for all his work. And, we've worked on that for probably a couple of years now. And I also want to throw something out to former Representative Bauer, because he originally worked on that with us a couple of years ago. So that's a long time in the makings there. The other would be the professional sports development piece for South Bend. I want to thank Mr. Nussbaum and Mr. Berlin. They were very instrumental with that. That would help improvements to the stadium, capture some tax dollars to help with the stadium improvements. The other one would be the compact. I got to say, Wesco, I've never been to public policy on the House side, but you guys are a tough group. They beat us up for an hour and then voted out unanimously. So, but a little caveat with that. Now, that's got to come back into a House bill. So I'm sitting on a bill in my committee. They vetted it in public policy and ways and means, and then it's going to come back and it'll end up in a House bill on our side, just because there's a a revenue increase in there, so it's got to be in a House bill. So just a procedural thing, and we'll get it out in a House bill.
Senator, I've been in your committee too. It's not always that easy.
I just made your bill better though. I got to thank our good friend Tim Sexton too. We got some good things with him, some education pieces and things we work on with Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a private school, but I got to say they're a good partner with the state. We do a lot of good work together. We've got 1004, which would be a House priority bill. That's a local business recovery bill. We put $60 million of CARES money in there to help local businesses, trying to give a priority to the hospitality industry, which was hit the hardest. Another House priority bill that came my way is 1008. That would be the remediation bill. There's $150 million of general fund money in there for remediation. That's kind of a tough one because the remediation is due to the fact that, the kids weren't in the classroom doing all the virtual and just didn't work for them. And so we have a lot of remediation due to the virtual piece, the kids going virtually. I got to give the House members a lot of credit. Somebody mentioned about all the concurrences. This year, in the beginning of the session, I was worried that by us being in different buildings, there didn't seem like a lot of communication, but thank goodness for text, because I find we're texting the House members a lot more, and we're working on amendments on the other side with each of them to get bills in a better place to avoid conference committee. And I have to tell you, this is probably the best year, the first year I've really seen that kind of communication before conference committee. So that actually speeds up the process. You're going to see a lot of economic development, with the CARES money coming in, economic development. You're going to see broadband. You're going to see transportation, water infrastructure. That $3 billion coming from the federal government will help us with that. Senator Skotsky's really big on the adoption subsidy and the foster tax credit. I want to try to find a home for those in the budget. I know they're dear to him, and I think they're really. I really agree with what he's trying to do for these kids and get these kids into homes and we talk about these big pieces and the economic development, all that. These are things that kind of get forgotten about, and if we're looking at our future, the kids are important. And so I'm trying to find a home in the budget for those two issues for Senator Skotsky. I think we'll be okay with those in the first round. So that's based outside of 1001, which takes up 90% of my time. That's the other things I'm working on.
Great, thank you, Senator Mishler, and again, appreciate your leadership on those bills that were important, and all of you for the work you've done making St. Joseph County a priority. But a couple other local bills of interest that I think are maybe you're still in the process. Representative Teshka, House Bill 1453 with judicial selection. Where are we at on that bill?
So that bill had a hearing in Senate Judiciary on Wednesday and was voted out. And so it will head to the full Senate, I believe, and one of the senators can correct me, I think, for second reading on Monday and then third reading sometime thereafter.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that update. How about 1367, the school corporation disannexations, one we talked about last month too. Again, how about that one? Where's that one in the process?
So that one is in the Senate Rules Committee, where dreams go to die, and so I'm not sure that one will make it through the process this year.
Okay, great. Appreciate that update. Thank you on that one. Representative Wesco, I want to come your way for a second. One of the other typical responsibilities this time around is redistricting and kind of that process. And I think we've talked before about the interruptions, but again, remind us what's going to happen with that process going forward.
So typically in a census year, we would be getting the data next week and would draw the maps over the next 4 weeks of session. Due to the pandemic, due to various issues that the U.S. Census Bureau has had, that information is not going to be available to us until much later this year. We were initially hoping for a mid-time summer date. The most recent information we have is as late as September. So the tentative plan right now is for us to come back into special session in September or October sometime for just a brief special session to consider the redistricting maps for the congressional districts and the state legislative districts across the state. Still a little bit of uncertainty about exactly how that will proceed. The current statute states that the leadership and the chairman of the committees, along with the governor appointee, would approve the legislative maps. I've been assured that that won't be the process that we use, that we will be coming back for a special session. So that's basically where we're at with that.
Great, thank you. And maybe more of a philosophical question related to that. And so I'm old, and so I've been around for a while, and it seemed like when the Democrats were in control, the Republicans complained that that the process wasn't fair. When the Republicans have been in control, the Democrats have complained that it isn't fair. How do you find kind of common ground? How do you do a process that's sort of fair and takes in the interest of everybody there?
I think transparency is key, and that's seeking input from across the state. I was just elected in 2010 when the last census and redistricting was done in 2011. And I know that there was input gathered from both sides of the aisle. As I recall, Representative Nisgotsky at the time voted for our maps. And so just looking to work and find common ground, there's a certain degree where it's impossible, but there's another degree where it is possible, and try to bring that in as much and as often as we can. I think is important, and will be a part of that process.
Great, thank you. Early in the session, we heard about tobacco tax, and there's been discussion all over the board. I think 50 cents to $2, I feel like is the range that we hear. Where are we in the discussion on tobacco tax increase?
In the Senate, we're probably at 0.
Okay.
You're probably not going to see, I highly doubt you're going to see the tobacco tax. What you will see, though, you'll probably see something on the vape. I think the Senate will put out something, the House sent something over with the vape. I think we'll make some changes to that, and you'll see the vape in there. But as of now, I'm going to just say that I highly doubt you're going to see a cigarette tax in there.
How about regional development? I think, obviously our area benefited greatly from your work several years ago when you created the Regional Cities program and funded it, and that has catalyzed some $400 million of improvements here across our region. So I believe it was maybe Senate Bill 215 or maybe it's just in the budget, but the discussion about regional recovery acts, the opportunity, I hesitate to call it Regional Cities 2.0 or whatever, but it felt like it was a regional recovery program. Where are we on that bill?
I don't know if 215 is moving or not, but I can tell you I've been working with Senator Holman on our side for the budget, and we're talking about some of the language he had in 215. The one piece I've added is, and you and I have talked about this, there's that local economic development lit, and it's just so small that no one will do it. You can't really use it for anything. And I feel if we raise that and give the regional development authorities the ability to have ongoing revenue, then they can bond projects. I think you see more growth. So I'm trying to add that. I know we're working on a long-term TIF in that too, but I think you'll see something in our budget along the lines of 215 that Senator Holman and I are working on.
Great. And I'm sorry, Senator Mishra, I didn't mean to send all the questions your way, but several budget questions there, so apologize for that. One more a question about mental health and substance abuse and some concerns about some potential cuts in the budget. So anybody familiar with that issue, want to talk about that?
That's something that's been brought up to me a number of times already. That is going to be part of the context of one of the things I speak with Senator Mishler, hopefully this upcoming week. But a lot of people have expressed that. It sounds like $26 million has been cut out of the budget for mental health and substance abuse issues. And I think that's one thing that we certainly want to try to put back. I know that I saw some in the American Relief Package that there is some dollars for that, but I'm not sure if those are the same dollars would be used for the same type of programs or if they'd be used to help supplement. But it's my hope that we can try to bring those dollars back. And just quickly, one more thing. We had the opportunity, Representative Teshka and I, and then the mayor and Dr. Lindsay Weaver from the state had the opportunity to do part of the media release at Notre Dame today, the media conference. And I just want to give a great thanks to Tim Sexton. By tomorrow, we're going to have close to almost 6,000 people vaccinated at the Compton Ice Arena. And the way they have it set up with the National Guard volunteering, it's just immense to have the opportunity just to see how that's working. So, and I think it sounds like we're going to have more of those as we come forward. So, we're on a pretty good roll here with administering these vaccines and trying to get ourselves to herd immunity.
Thank you, Senator Skotsky, for mentioning that. And we're appreciative of the state and the great partners they've been throughout COVID. COVID obviously has been part of your discussion at the State House. There's some discussion about emergency orders and some of that. Any updates on the COVID discussion and what may come out of this from a policy standpoint?
I can tell you where 1123 is right now. So it's on, it just passed seconds Thursday. And so I helped put a piece in there about, there was a lot of talk about the legislature wasn't involved in how the money was spent. And so I helped draft a piece that says all the money comes into a fund. Anytime we get disaster relief money from the federal government, and then each one of those goes into separate accounts. Therefore, the legislature has input on how the money's spent, whether we appropriate it or review it for the budget agency to spend it. But no matter any way they do it, it's going to have legislative involvement. The other piece has it where the legislative council can bring us back into session. Right now, only the governor can, and that was another issue we heard out and about in our districts, that how come you guys can't bring you guys back in? And well, you can't. So this allows the Leg Council, which again, so the Budget Committee is made up of one member of each caucus plus a governor's appointee. And then same with Leg Council, that's a bipartisan committee. So that the way the bill is now, the Leg Council could bring us back in and address those issues.
Great, thank you. Representative Wesco, just a follow-up question from related redistricting, and you talked about the importance of public input. Talk about the mechanism or the best way people will be, can plug into that discussion going forward.
So I anticipate that we'll be holding hearings across the state and in the major population areas across the state, in addition to the State House, and be taking input in from all of the entities that are interested in that process. And certainly I've heard of the Citizens Redistricting Commission, and they'll be brought, I'm sure they'll have the opportunity to testify before those listening tours, so to speak, but we want to get as much input from across the state as we possibly can. And so I anticipate it looking something along those lines later this year. Great,
thank you. Thank you, Tim, appreciate that. So, as we head to the home stretch here, final chances, it is going to be our final, third House meeting of the year, and you're in the home stretch of the legislative session. Any final comments or thoughts that you want to leave with our business community before we get out of here today? Representative Bauer, I'll come your way. Any final words here before we go?
Well, I think it's important for everyone to know that just yesterday, a House Democratic member did bring an amendment to try to bring on a bipartisan redistricting commission, and that failed. So I just want people to know there are some attempts and your kind of concerns are being heard, but we still have a lot more work to do to achieve that. But I'm looking forward to the next few weeks and moving some good bills forward and stopping some bills that maybe won't serve everyone quite as well.
Representative Vaughn?
I think, several have said that the foundation that we were set on financially is critical. And I think keeping that focus on affordable taxes, affordable housing. Housing is a crazy place right now. If you got a house to sell, it's the best time to sell. The problem is if you need to buy another one, right, you need a place to live. And so the housing market is completely chaotic right now. I'll say that as a home builder. Prices of materials are just going through the roof. But with that being said, Indiana's still in one of the greatest states for affordable housing and affordable living in the country. And I think it's because of as we said in the past 10, 12 years of legislative work to maintain that tax base and to keep that focus moving forward and trying to limit government as much as we can. We got a lot of federal government coming in, federal funding coming into the area. I don't know if anybody returned their stimulus checks that we're talking to here, but because you didn't need it. So, I think everybody will take what money they can get. We can just use it in a way that continue to, in my opinion, help kids and broken families is one of our biggest issues in our state and our nation. And so that's my main focus, continuing to move forward.
Great, thanks. How about Representative Teschka, any final words for us today?
Sure. Well, first, I'd just like to, say that I think Representative Devon, it's an understatement to say that the housing market is chaotic. As he pointed out, he's a home builder. And so I went to Representative Devon. I said, my wife wants to build a house. Here's our budget. And he came back with the drawing of a shed with a Murphy bed. So, that's it's about all I can afford right now. But, I think it's important as we move through these last couple of weeks that folks know that it's really not over, right? And as the process is still very much alive. And so there are, as we work through these concurrences, there's also the possibility that one chamber will dissent on a bill, which throws it in a conference committee. And so there's still a lot up for grabs. And so I think that, if you're thinking, well, the fat lady is pretty much sung, I think I would encourage folks to keep a watchful eye. And as things move forward over the next couple of weeks, there still bound to be some changes.
Hey, Jeff, I just want a clarification on that. The Murphy bed was not included.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for the clarification. That's good. Representative Wesco.
I would just encourage everyone to continue to watch these pieces of legislation that impact our local area, and just to once again reiterate Dale and Jake's comments about the amount of federal dollars that are going to be flowing in. And as it was reported in the South Bend Tribune just a couple of weeks ago, I think it's very important how those funds are invested in a way that bolsters the economy. I wasn't necessarily a big fan of doing it in the first place. I had heard from employers this last weekend that they never thought they would have to compete with the federal government, essentially because of the incredibly rich benefits that are provided right now to be unemployed and have been in the case. But it seems these funds are coming our way. They need to be invested carefully and strategically at the state level, all the way down to the local level. There's going to be $2 billion flowing into our public school system in the state of Indiana. So there's going to be a huge cash infusion. So I think there's going to need to be a lot of wisdom, and I would encourage the business community to be watching that very carefully and providing as much input as possible in where those funds are invested.
Thanks, Representative Wesco. Senator Mishler, any final words for us today?
Yeah, I'll just say that I think this is probably the best session that our region has probably had in the 17 years I've been there, with all the things that we have right now. So I think if all these things pass, make it to the finish line, I think it's a huge win for our area. And one thing as a business owner, I'll tell you, I'm very skeptical about the federal money because, it's not free and it has to be paid for. So you're going to see in a lot of these bills I'm putting that the general fund money is last money out, and we have to spend the federal money first, because if that general fund money is still there, it needs to revert back, because in a couple of years, my fear is that the federal government's going to start cutting this, like maybe Medicaid, things like that, to make up for all the money they're giving away now. And so I think we need to really build up our cash reserves to prepare for what could be coming in a couple of years, because I don't know how else they're going to pay for all this stuff. So as a business owner, I would share that with my fellow business owners out there. Just be very cautious. And thanks for doing this, Jeff.
Yeah, no, thanks, Senator Mishler. Appreciate your word. Senator Skotsky, I'll give you last words here.
I just like to echo pretty much what Senator Mishler just said. I hope to see the things that we've got in progress to make it to the finish line. I think they're gonna. It's going to be one of the greatest things for our community in a number of years. And there's probably a few things I wouldn't mind if they flip over the guardrails on the way to that finish line. So, but and another thing that was mentioned is in terms of the dollars. I come back today, for my one day back at the shop. And I've just been notified of all the different things, all the price increases. So those stimulus dollars are sorely needed. They've been an investment into our community. And, in the next couple of years, that's where we're going to see where some of the outcomes going to really fall. And, we're going to have to deal with that. So I'd have to agree with that.
Great. Well, a big thank you to all of you for making it a great session. Appreciate you always taking our calls and the work that you do on behalf of our communities. I think what's interesting is I'm impressed with all of you, work closely with all of you. I think I've seen you all have a mutual respect for each other, not get stuck in partisan issues. And I appreciate your willingness to work with folks and make this a great session. I do think, Senator Mishler, you're right. This is one of the best sessions we've had locally in a really long time, but that's because of our delegation and the work that you've done to help get that. And so just want to say thank you. I want to say thanks to the Troyer Group, again, our sponsor for Third House Sessions. John Lisinski and the team over there do some great work and are important chamber partners. If you want to partner your business with the chamber, feel free to call me. We'll look forward to plugging you in somewhere else along the way. And watch, we'll be back again on legislative issues in the fall for a legislative preview, and then next session. I hate to look that far ahead. I know you guys are ready to get this one done, but just a reminder that we think this is a great way to bring what's happening to the State House to our members, and we'll plan to do this again into the future. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for spending your lunch hour with us.